25 books that will scare you to death. Number 25. The Haunting of Hill House. Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House has unnerved readers since its original publication in 1959. A tale of subtle psychological terror, it has earned its place as one of the significant haunted house stories of the ages. Number 24. The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a 1971 novel by William Peter Blatty. The book details the demonic possession of 12-year-old Reagan McNeil and the psychiatrist priest who attempts to exorcise the demons. Number 23. Dracula. Dracula is an 1897 Gothic horror novel by Irish author Bram Stoker. Famous for introducing the character of the vampire Count Dracula, the novel tells the story of Dracula's attempt to move from Transylvania to England and the battle between Dracula and a small group of men and women led by Professor Abraham Van Helsing. Number 22. Lord of the Flies. William Golding's classic tale tells the story of a group of English schoolboys who are left stranded on an unpopulated island and are driven to savagery. Number 21. Rosemary's Baby. The book centers on Rosemary Woodhouse, who discovers that her neighbors are the leaders of a satanic coven, and she suspects they intend to steal her child and use it as a sacrifice to the devil. Ultimately, Rosemary finds that she is wrong about the coven's reasons for wanting her baby, because her baby is actually the Antichrist. Number 20. Heart-Shaped Box. Heart-Shaped Box is a horror novel by Joe Hill that was first released in 2007. It tells the story of a haunted suit placed in a heart-shaped box that an aging rock star named Judas Coyne chose to include in his collection of morbid memorabilia. Number 19. Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot is a 1975 horror fiction novel written by American author Stephen King. It was his second published novel. The story involves a writer named Ben who returns to the town where he lived as a boy to discover that the residents are all becoming vampires. Number 18. Phantoms. Two sisters go home to a small town to find it completely wiped out and no logical cause for all the death and disappearances. They, with help from a few others, try and find what has happened to this town and how to prevent it from happening to them. Number 17. They Thirst. They Thirst is a horror novel by Robert R. McCammon. The book details the relentless possession of Los Angeles by vampires, who quickly transform the city into a necropolis with the intent to conquer the entire world. Number 16. The Turn of the Screw. The Turn of the Screw is an intense psychological tale of terror. It begins in an old house on Christmas Eve. It is the story of a governess who comes to live with and take care of two young children. The governess loves her new position in charge of the young children. However, she is soon disturbed when she begins to see ghosts. Number 15. The Damnation Game. A reclusive millionaire makes a deal with the devil to gain power and wealth. Now that his debt is due, horrible forces rise and his personal bodyguard Marty Strauss is trapped between his human master and hell itself. Number 14. Psycho. Norman Bates loves his mother, but she has been dead for the past 20 years, or so people think. When a beautiful woman checks into his motel, Norman can't help but spy on her as she undresses, but Mother is there to protect him from his filthy thoughts, with her butcher knife. Number 13. Carrie & Comfort. Carrie & Comfort is a science fiction horror novel that portrays a tiny fraction of humanity that has immense psychic powers, which they refer to as the ability. These powers can be used to completely control people from a distance to commit any physical action, including murder. Number 12. The Hellbound Heart. The novel written by Clive Barker tells the story of a sexual adventurer named Frank, who in search of new pleasures obtains a puzzle box said to give him the kind of experiences he desires. He brings it back to his London home and after a time solves it, unleashing demons from hell. Number 11. Lost Souls. Written by Poppy Z. Bright, Lost Souls is the story of vampires, but not the vampires from most stories. These vampires are not transformed humans, but a separate species who are born vampires. Number 10. The Dark Half. Written by Stephen King, The Dark Half was the second best-selling novel of 1989. It is the story of Stark, who rises from a mock grave as a physical entity and goes on a killing spree. Number 9. The Shining. The Shining focuses on Jack Torrance, a writer and recovering alcoholic who accepts a position as an off-season caretaker in an isolated hotel. Jack's young son Danny possesses psychic abilities, which enable him to see aspects from the hotel's horrific past. Soon after a winter storm leaves them snowbound, the supernatural forces inhabiting the hotel influence Jack's sanity, leaving his wife and son in incredible danger. Number 8. Frankenstein. Frankenstein tells the story of committed science student Victor Frankenstein. Obsessed with discovering the cause of generation and life and bestowing animation upon lifeless matter, Frankenstein assembles a human being from stolen body parts, but upon bringing it to life he recoils in horror at the creature's hideousness. Tormented by isolation and loneliness, the once innocent creature turns to evil and unleashes a campaign of murderous revenge against his creator, Frankenstein. Number 7. It. The The story follows the exploits of 7 children as they are terrorized by an eponymous being which exploits the fears and phobias of its victims in order to disguise itself while hunting its prey. It primarily appears in the form of a clown in order to attract its preferred prey of young children. Number 6. The Mist. The Mist is a horror novel by the American author Stephen King, in which the small town of Brigden, Maine is suddenly enveloped in an unnatural mist that conceals otherworldly monsters. Number 5. The Ruins. Trapped in the Mexican jungle, a group of friends stumble upon a creeping horror unlike anything they could ever imagine. 2 young couples are on a lazy Mexican vacation when the brother of one of the friends disappears. They decide to venture into the jungle to look for him. What started out as a fun day trip slowly spirals into a nightmare when they find an ancient ruined site and the terrifying presence that lurks there. Number 4. Let the Right One In. It is autumn 1981 when the inconceivable comes to Blackburg, a suburb in Sweden. The body of a teenage boy is found, emptied of blood, the murder rumored to be part of a ritual killing. 12-year-old Oscar is personally hoping that revenge has come at long last, revenge for the bully he endures at school day after day. Number 3. Pet Cemetery. When the Creeds move into a beautiful old house in rural Maine, it all seems too good to be true. Physician father, beautiful wife, charming little daughter, adorable infant son, and now an idyllic home. As a family they've got it all, right down to the friendly cat. But the nearby woods hide a blood-curdling truth, more terrifying than death itself, and hideously more powerful. Number 2. Haunted. Haunted is a novel made up of stories, 23 of the most horrifying, hilarious, mind-blowing, stomach-churning tales you'll ever encounter. Number 1. The Rising. The Rising is the story of Jim Thurman, a determined father battling his way across a post-apocalyptic zombie landscape to find his young son. Accompanied by Martin, a preacher still holding to his faith, and Frankie, a recovering heroin addict with an indomitable will to survive, Jim travels from state to state and town to town, facing an endless onslaught of undead hordes and the evils perpetrated by his fellow man. If you liked the video you just saw, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button, and be sure to check out our site clickypix.com for more great content.